Hello everyone, welcome back for another video tutorial. For this video, we will look at how do we create a service that display a graph for a certain data service. Now let's take a look at what we have here. So over here we have data scraping schemes that get data from Kinokuniya bookstore. Okay, so first let's take a look at the output size of it. So I can go ahead and test these services here, and the service might take some time. Okay, now we get the result. Basically it gives us a list of objects. For each object it contains information of the name of the book and the price of the book. So in this case what we are trying to do is we are trying to show the information of the book based on two group of pricings. For example, I would set group 1 to have the price of the book less than 500 baht and the second group to have the price more than 500 baht. So in this case, we are going to use the pie graph or donut graph to represent number of the two group. Okay, let's take a look at how this is happen. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is we are going to create a service that generate the output as HTML. Imagine that keep in mind that this is the service to give us the data, but we need another flows that give us the service as HTML. So go ahead and graph HTTP input here. I'm going to name this as /book. And also we are going to have the response here, so let's put it right here. Okay, so connect them together, and in between we're gonna go graph not function but template. This one is going to output HTML templates for us. Now the first thing we want to do is we would like to input the standard HTML tag here. So we're gonna have the head section as well, so let's put head, and we are going to have the body part. Okay, so let's take a look, focus on the header part first. We're gonna put jQuery, we're gonna put Bootstrap, and also the library that allow us to display chart. We call it Apex chart. So I have prepared the template for this. Let's go section by section. Let's starting from the header part. So we're gonna have this meta so that our website is become responsive. Okay, now we also have the links that put for the CSS styling thing for Bootstrap. We also have the lib that link to jQuery, and also the lib that link to Bootstrap. Okay, so that is basic minimal structure. Now we also need another lib from Apex chart, okay, so that we can display the library. Now let's put this together. So let's copy this and then put it inside the header section here. Alright, now what is the next step? The next step is we are going to have a part that can be used to display a graph. So in this case, I'm going to put div div, and this div is going to have the class for the row, so we can display the rows. Inside this, I planned to have two graphs, so we're gonna put another div here. But before that, let's put this for container as well, so that we have some margin. So class equal to column sm for 6. Okay, and in here we have another column here, so we're gonna call it column sm6, so that we have separated this column into two parts on this single rows. Okay, so this column will take equal size for both of them, and inside of the div we are going to have an area that display the graph or the chart. So I'm going to use the div to do this, and we are going to have the ID for chart number 1. We do the same thing for inside these locations. So it's going to look like we have two charts together. Okay, so this is going to be chart number 2 as well, and these two charts would have equal width in this case. Now what is the next step? The next step is to get the data from this service. To get data from this service is simple because we know how to use jQuery, so we can say, okay, whenever the documents is ready, so we say register for the ready functions, is going to call setup. Now inside setup, we are going to have to implement a function called setup. In here, let me make comment. This function is used whenever the document is fully loaded. All right, and mostly we are going to deal with data get data requests from Kino service. Okay, if you look at this, we have the service name Kino. So what you need to do is you're gonna need to tell them the URL. So I have URL right here equal to http localhost :110/Kino. So we're gonna get this from URLs, and the command that we allow us to get http get service from the server is using $.get. Then take URL as the input. Whenever data alive, then we register for service function we call let's call data alive. So that's why we need to also go ahead and implement another function called data alive. Here is come with the data. Now what we want to do first is we want to examine the structure of the data so that we can decide whether or not we want to go with what display scheme. Okay, so let's go ahead and now let's take a look at the result. So instead of Kino now, I'm going to change it to be book because now our flow over here is become a book. So this website takes some time though in terms of getting data from the server, but now we got the data as the array. As you can see, it shows the list of objects. Each object contains two basic information: the price and the name. Now, as I said, we are gonna do some alchemists. I just want to know how many books that the price is more than or equal to less than or equal to 500. I'm going to classify those books as group 1 and the one that is more than 500 baht to be group 2. So let's do alchemist a bit. So in this case, go back to our template here and we define global variable here. So I'm going to define where group 1 is the number of the group, number of the books for group 1. So equally at the beginning equal to 0 for both group 1 and group 2. And whenever we got the data, we just have to loop through this set or this list. So we say var I equal to 0, I less than data.length and I plus plus. Okay, this is the end of the loop. All right, so what we want is check the condition. So we say if, okay, if data I dot price is less than or equal to 500, we're gonna increase number of group 1 by 1. So we say group 1 plus plus. And if this is not the case, we say else. And we are going to do something different. So we're gonna say, hey, we want to increment group 2 by 1. So in this case, we're gonna get two data as group 1 and group 2. And you can examine the result by looking at console.log group 1, okay, plus, well, how about this? Group 1 plus group 1 over here itself. And we have another number here. So we're gonna need a group 2. So in this case, after the loop, it's going to classify book based on the price, and if the price is less than or equal to 500, it's increased this by 1. So we know that, okay, the books is less than this number, then we increase that group number here. All right, now let's try see if this is working. So I'm trying to get to see. All right, so we have group 1 for 5 and group 2 for 15. Okay. Now let's get into detail for more. Now once we got the number, I want to plot the graph. So in this case, we're gonna plot two graphs called plot 1 and plot 2. Graph number 1 is going to be for the pie chart. The second one is dedicated for the bar chart. Now let's look at part number 1 first. So let's create function plot 1 and function plot 2. Okay, plot 1 is for the pie chart. So if you recall yourself at the beginning here, we create the area called chart number 1 to show graph 1 and chart 2 to show graph 2. We are going to refer to this in a moment. Now let's put this. Now you might wonder how do we work with the graph? Well, if you look at this document here, Apex chart, okay, they have a certain group of documents over here that laid out about the introduction of each graph. Now, if you look at the pie chart here, we're gonna need to set up several things. Okay, starting with the series of the data represent the number itself. The label is the label that is on the chart. So in this case, we're gonna put group 1 and group 2 right here, and number of the book for group 1 and number of the book for group 2 in this case. So let's go ahead and do this together. I have the template for this for you, so you don't have to actually go and grab this manually. So in this case, we're gonna go step by step. So first, we are going to construct this options. So let's go back here. This is the end of f function. This is the end of f. Now put it right here. Now let's examine what is inside this option. Let me minimize this. Okay. So the objects options is an object structure that contain now 4 basic information: chart, plot options, series, and labels. Let's take a look at label first. Label is going to be used for the text on graph. So each part of the graph will have the label group 1 and 2. The series itself is the actual data, like 50, 120, and so on. Now group 1 and group 2 number has been already calculated in this step. Okay, so after this step, because group 1 and group 2 are declared as the global variable in this context, in any function, we can refer to group 1 and group 2 easily. Okay, now plot option. Well, let's look at the chart first. Chart is to tell what type of the graph that you want. So in this case, we say the type of the graph that we want is donuts. Okay, and plot option is about the size of the graph itself. Now I put size equal to 200 in this case. And then what else? Once you set up the option already, then the next step is to create an objects for chart 1. To do this, I have template for you as well. So this is the one that we need. Let me put it here first. This is to say that we want to create a new chart that is the new object, and this object is based on this area. Now if you recall this, about 2 minutes ago we actually show you that this is the deep part that we want to draw the graph, and the ID is chart number 1. So we use chart number 1 right here, and don't forget to put the chart as well. That is to denote the IDs. Alright, so after this is done, the next step is you have to tell them, hey, the chart, could you please render yourself? So in this case, we say, hey, chart number 1, could you please render yourself, please? So in this case, deploy it, and we are expect to see the result. Okay, and it's going to give us the chart. As you can see, we have two groups, one with 25%, the other is 75%. And the good thing about putting things in here is that it also gives you the percentage as well. As you know, it gives us like 50 and 150 in terms of the number of the book for group 1 and group 2. This one is the groups of the book that the price is more than less than or equal to 500. This is the one that is more than 500. Okay, so this is for graph number 1. Let's do it again for graph number 2. Now for graph 2, what we are going to do here is we are going to introduce another plot functions. So plot 2, so it's going to have to take this to draw the chart number 2, and chart number 2 is belong to the chart area number 2. If you recall it yourself, over here we have chart number 2 in this position, in this location. All right. Now the only thing left is we have to prepare an objects for the options that will be used for this process. Okay. So go ahead and use the template. Now I'm going to copy this like the way, and then we can go further. Control C, and let's check to see if this is all together. Okay, because this is the end, this is the end, this is the end of this is the end of this, so that means it's supposed to have semicolon. So together here we put it back before plot 2. So we're gonna define the options object here. Now let me minimize the information so you can see this in detail. So what happened? Well, we first say that the option is used for the chart type, that is bar, and the height is 350. You can make it become smaller by yourself, changing the number. Then we look at x-axis. X-axis is going to be the axis that tell how many groups. Okay. Also for the series itself, okay, the variable group 1 and group 2, we will see this in result together. Data label, we say full. For now, you can turn it on to see the effect. And plot options, we say horizontal. All right, now let's see if this is working for us. Go ahead and refresh this, and I think it might be something. Yeah, sometime, as you can see, still requesting for this website, so that's why it's very slow. Now I think we got the result. All right, now you can see that this graph put along the side for each others, and also as you can see, we have group number 1 and group number 2. This number tell like how many of them. Okay, how many of them, and this is shown in horizontal manner. Now let's take a look at this. If I adjust the parameters from here, so instead of horizontal, see if I can make it become vertical. So if I say horizontal equal to 4 and refresh this, as you can see, it's become vertical and look very nice. I haven't dealt with the margin things. You can adjust the margin size by yourself later on. Okay, there are many places that you can work with that one, like putting containers, put margins, and so on. Changing the size of the graph itself from 200 to become something different, like 150 size of this. And then let's take a look at the output. As you can see, the size becomes smaller. Okay, so you can decide whether or not you want it to be something different. All right, so just to make a quick review for what we have done so far. Now once you got the data, okay, you can go ahead and look at each graph. Okay, they have documentation, the neat one that allow you to follow along and see if you want it or not. So you can go with the line chart, like the line with data label, and it will show you option how to put data in there. Okay, so providing that you know how to put data into variable, as I can tell you here that whenever I need variable in terms of x-axis data, I put as this into the series. Different graph have different terms and terminology. As you can see, they use series with the data, right? And over here, the series is the set of the group themselves right here. Because in the same graph, you can have more than one graph together. The series of graph, basically, like multiple lines, for example. You can consult the document for further detail, okay? All right, now let's make a quick summarize of what we have done so far. If you look at the code here, we first introduce the header part of jQuery and Bootstrap, and then we introduce a page chart reference. Then we go to the body part and put two locations, chart number 1 and chart number 2. This div is basically at the beginning is an empty div, but it's going to be empowered by a page chart to show chart later. Now in the script, we register the function whenever the document is fully loaded. We get data from this service. Okay, that service is available from another flow here. Okay, and then what else? Once you got the data, we register the function to take care of incoming data. And then once the data is there, we loop through the set of this data here. When we decide the group, okay, so we make declaration of two groups as variable that take into account the number of the books that fall below these conditions. And then after you have these two group information here, we make a plot for plot 1 and 2. Plot 1 is based on the pie graph, and as you can see, we specified an option object that have information of the chart. It's the object structure as well, so we put the types in there. The plus option is also another object structures that inside of this we need a part we need information of what type that you want. In this case is the pie, and inside is the objects that have the size. Also, this is important. That label is used to show this label group here. Okay, and the series is actual data. And this is how you turn on that area, that chart 1 area, into the chart area like this. Okay, and the function lender is to display the graph. Without this calling, then you don't get the output. Same thing go for plot 2 here. The plot 2, we need an object option here with information of chart, plot option, data label, series. Okay, the series, as you can see, whenever you do the pie chart, we use series for putting the actual data and label for the label. But when we do the bar chart here, we have the series to represent the actual data on the on the x-axis. Okay, and what else? The x-axis data now become the label for group 1 and group 2. And the actual data on the y-axis is represented by here. Okay, you can also specify the type of the graph is if you want to turn this on as horizontal, you put horizontal true, but if you want to keep this vertical, you say horizontal false. All right, I hope that this introduction would allow you to study more in terms of getting another flow that make representation of your data. All right, so stay tuned. I might have additional video tutorial for multiple graph in the same chart. I'll see you. Thank you.